As you guys may have seen from my previous video, the NBA bubble has officially started, and for the most part, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff so far. If you guys want, I'll leave a link in the description down below to my last video, but for the most part, so far, all we've gotten is a bunch of hilarious J.R. Smith IG live videos, and then the NBA asking J.R. Smith to stop exposing the bubble on IG Live. There's been a little bit of drama and some controversy, but in a very funny way. But for the most part, I think that so far, the bubble has been a gigantic success, and kudos to the NBA for being so creative and finding a very creative yet safe way to resume basketball. Now, there are some caveats with this. For one, a player for the Houston Rockets, Bruno Cabalco, accidentally broke the NBA's quarantine rules, and now he must be in quarantine for the next 8 days before returning to practice. There's a lot of pretty interesting stuff that's unprecedented that we've never seen before, but the one thing that I've been paying the most attention to is how players have been handling their bodies and taking care of themselves during their extended period of time and the extended pause that they received over the past 3.5 months before the NBA resumed. Now, recently I made a video on Alex Caruso and Rajon Rondo and how their bodies changed, and for the most part you could agree Rajon Rondo especially looks like a freaking bodybuilder. Although he did recently injure his hand and he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, nonetheless he did make the most of his time to put himself in the best position to succeed and to contribute to a potential championship for the Los Angeles Lakers, although he's not going to be playing right now. By the way, let me know in the comment section down below, now that Rajon Rondo's out, Avery Bradley's also out, what do you think the Lakers' chances are of making it to the NBA Finals or winning an NBA championship is? I think they're beginning to diminish now that, I don't know, most of their players that were on the team from the start of the season aren't there anymore. Their bench looks completely different. Let me know in the comment section down below, but that's not what today's video is about. Today we're going to be discussing a player that I remember 1 year ago, I was making video after video just trying to cover his free agency, trying to shine a light on what he's going through, and that's Carmelo Anthony. Now, if you're anything like me, man, I grew up watching Carmelo Anthony. I remember seeing him drafted, and I remember being a huge fan of his growing up, although I was never really a fan of the Nuggets or the Knicks. And now that he got a new chance with a brand new team, the Portland Trail Blazers, well, at first, I really didn't think anything was going to come out of it. I thought that he'd be a huge defensive liability and that the Portland Trail Blazers were just desperate to get Damian Lillard as much help as they could. But after watching this video, not only are you going to see how much of a difference maker Carmelo Anthony was for the Portland Trail Blazers, but how seriously he's taking his job and how incredibly in shape this guy has gotten. Now, before we get to the content, guys, please take a moment to leave a like, subscribe, and turn my notifications on. We are on the grind to 400,000 subscribers, and if we hit 400,000 subscribers by October, then I will give away a PS5 or the next generation Xbox on this channel. In addition to that, I'm planning a huge Twitter giveaway for NBA 2K20, so if you're into that, make sure to follow me on Twitter. Aside from that, cue the music. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Your boy TheFlightMike back again with some NBA news, and guys, it's getting really exciting up in here because now we have Carmelo Anthony, who has dropped a bunch of weight during quarantine. Now, here's the thing about Melo that you have to understand. His stock was an all-time low before this season started. It seemed really weird after failed stints with the Oklahoma City Thunder, after the Houston Rockets bringing him in and then literally throwing him away after a few games, despite him proving that he had something in the tank offensively, yet being a bit of a defensive liability. The Portland Trail Blazers finally relented. Now you have to understand, the Portland Trail Blazers were in a very desperate situation here. They have Damian Lillard, a player that is without a doubt, in my opinion at least, a top 3 point guard in the NBA. Let me know in the comment section if you disagree on who your top 3 is, but in my opinion, Damian Lillard is a freaking dog. But the Portland Trail Blazers made a lot of weird and poor decisions over the offseason, at least in my opinion, because they didn't really surround Damian Lillard with the proper personnel to get him back into the Western Conference playoffs. For example, they traded away Myers Leonard for Hassan Whiteside. That kind of ruined the floor spacing that the Portland Trail Blazers had. but that was a knee-jerk reaction to their starting center Jusuf Nurkic being out for the entire season. So definitely the Blazers were kind of on their last legs, and they're very, very bare bones at this point. At the time that they signed Carmelo Anthony, the Portland Trail Blazers literally only won 5 of their 15 games. I think people forget how terrible the Blazers were before bringing in Melo. And that's a huge testament to Melo because, and bear in mind, this is before his crazy transformation, which I'm going to show you in a second. In 50 games for the Portland Trail Blazers, he's put up 15 points, 6.3 rebounds on 43% shooting. He hasn't been that efficient from scoring since, I don't know, his final year with the New York Knicks. And then if you want to go and dive in a little bit deeper, his player efficiency rating is definitely not what it used to be. It's a 12.2. He's not an amazing defensive savant all of a sudden, and his box plus minus is a negative 3.7. But overall, we could all agree that Carmelo's effect and influence on the Portland Trail Blazers has ultimately been felt. So you can imagine everyone's surprise when, after many, many months of quarantine, Carmelo Anthony comes back and he looks like this. Look at him. We had Hoodie Melo before, but this Melo is an absolutely terrifyingly skinny version of Carmelo Anthony. And honestly, I am so here for it, because if there's one thing we've learned in the past from other NBA players, it's that as you age and as time goes on, obviously you want to make your body as light as possible so there's less pressure and less stress on your knees, and so that you're lighter and you can move around the court a little bit easier. I think in Carmelo Anthony's case, that's super important, especially as a guy that's notorious for not being the greatest at defense. I feel like an ability to be lighter would help him to quickly switch on screens and potentially use that length that he has to his advantage on the defensive side of the floor. But in addition to this is a testament to Carmelo Anthony's work ethic. I think we could all agree that Melo understands that this could be his final chance at cracking the playoffs, or this could be his final chance at making an impression on the team. He's not a consistent player that's going to be playing in the NBA for every single year from here on out, and he has to do whatever it takes to show teams that he'll do whatever it takes to help the team win. And this work ethic and this dedication and this drive just makes me respect him that much more, especially considering the fact that the Portland Trail Blazers actually have a chance at making it into the NBA playoffs. I know a lot of people are thinking, hey, the 8th seed is going to either be the New Orleans Pelicans or the Memphis Grizzlies. And to be honest, even off the top of my head, before I even looked at the standings, I thought that was the case as well. But if you look at the standings, that's not the case at all. It goes the 8th seed, and by the way, the 7th seed, the Mavericks are like literally 8 games ahead of the 8th seed. So if you want to crack the playoffs and you're outside looking in, your best chance is to make it into the 8th seed. So far, the Memphis Grizzlies have 32 wins to 33 losses. The Portland Trail Blazers have 29 wins to 37 losses, and the Pelicans have 28 wins to 36 losses. But here's the caveat here. The Pelicans have the easiest schedule to come back into the NBA playoffs. And come on, let's be honest. We all know that the NBA is really doing whatever it takes to try to get Zion a chance to make it into the NBA playoffs. And who could blame them? Especially after the revenue they lost. They need to make as much money in this bubble as humanly possible. And I know as a fan, personally, I'm not even a Pelicans fan. I would want to see Zion in the playoffs. I'd love to see Ja in the playoffs as well, but I want to see Zion Williamson in the playoffs this year. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that as well. But even furthermore, let's go and talk about this from a management perspective. We all know the rumors surrounding Damian Lillard. It looks like Damian Lillard is this year's, official free agent to watch that's going to leave. Before it was Giannis Antetokounmpo, but after Damian Lillard got the NBA 2K covered, and I'm assuming maybe my TikTok that went pseudo-viral had something to do with this. I'll leave my TikTok in the description down below. I understand some of you guys think it's a little cringy, but I think I do a good job making TikToks that you guys enjoy. But a while ago, I made a TikTok that discussed the NBA 2K cover curse. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this. The way it works is every time the 2K cover had a lone player on the cover, they usually change teams the year after, which is kind of funny because the Madden curse usually has something to do with whoever's on the Madden cover typically gets injured or has a bad year. But in 2K, it means the player typically changes teams. In NBA 2K14, you had LeBron James on the cover as a member of the Miami Heat. He left to go to Cleveland the year after. On NBA 2K15, you had Kevin Durant on the cover, and he left to sign with the Golden State Warriors the year after. NBA 2K16 had 3 players on the cover, so we don't really count that. But NBA 2K17, you had Paul George on the cover. He got traded to the Thunder after. NBA 2K18, you had Kyrie Irving on the cover, and then he got traded to the Boston Celtics. NBA 2K19, you had LeBron James on the cover, but this was as he was going to the Los Angeles Lakers. And NBA 2K20, most recently, you have Anthony Davis on the cover as he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. So everyone's saying, okay, Damian Lillard, now everyone's saying Damian Lillard is on the cover of NBA 2K21, so chances are he's gonna get disgruntled and demand a trade out of nowhere, and that's the current rumor. So I'm assuming the Portland Trailblazers are doing whatever it takes to appease him and try to persuade him to stay, but they're kind of all in at this point. I don't think there's much better that they could do than the roster that they've given him, and this playoff run definitely will determine how likely Damian Lillard is to stay, because he's given everything he possibly could to that franchise, and it's only a matter of time before he makes a, in my opinion, a Russell Westbrook-like exit where he gives his all to the city of Portland, and he said we did, and he'll probably say we did what we can, but I really can't spend any more time here. I have to go give myself a chance to win, and he gets traded somewhere else. Now, that's a different video in of itself. I'm only mentioning it here because I wanted to get your guys' comments so I could feature it in my official video on Damian Lillard. But let me know what you guys think about Carmelo Anthony's weight loss. Do you think he lost too much weight? Do you think he's too scary skinny? Or do you think he's just right? Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike, and I'll catch you guys in our next upload.